All right, guys, welcome back to our final day talking about ancient Greece. So today we're talking about Alexander the Great. So let's go ahead and dive on in. So when you're getting into Alexander the Great, it all basically begins with the Peloponnesian War, the results of the Peloponnesian War. Now we know it was caused by competition for control of Greece between Athens and Sparta, and at the end we're going to see a very weak Greece, politically and in some cases militarily. And that is going to open the door for something new to happen. We're going to see Macedonia, this region that's north of Greece, still technically Greek, but they're looked at as think of it this way. Uh, like the hillbillies that live up in the mountains. That's what Macedonia is thought of to the Greeks. All right. That's like the whole idea. They're these backwoods, barbaric, half barbaric people that they think are beneath them. But they're going to come storming out of Macedonia and they're going to conquer the vast majority of the territory around them. Uh, except for Sparta under King Philip II. He gets all this territory except for Sparta. Uh, And the story behind that is, he sent a message to Sparta. You are advised to submit without further delay. If I bring my army into your land, I will destroy your farms, slay your people, and raze your city. And the Spartans' reply to that was, if. Yeah, this was during the fall of Spartan power, but they were still monsters on the battlefield. And Philip II, he really didn't want any of that. That's why he was trying to bully them into submitting instead of fighting against them. All right. So let's talk about the rise of Macedonia. They are descended from the Dorians, which was this kind of barbarian-esque uh, people that were from north of Greece. And like I said before, the Greeks looked down on them. But it is in 359 BC when Philip II becomes the new king of Macedonia, and he's going to quickly work on expanding his kingdom and turning it into an empire. He's going to acquire, Thessaly, which is a Greek region. He's going to take over like Philippi, Nicopolis, Amphipolis, like some stronger cities up here. He's going to take Thrace, which is a pretty powerful region in its own right. So here's a look at Philip of Macedon. He did lose an eye at one point, so that's why this what idea of what he may have looked like has a missing eye, because he actually did lose one in battle, I believe. He is going to set up this powerful new reworking of the military, and he's going to use it to conquer all these areas, and he's going to use a heavy phalanx formation and would make him like the master of Greece. And being the father of Alexander the Great, Alexander's going to inherit a pretty powerful army. So Philip II, he had three things that he wanted to do before he died: create a strong standing army that's constantly on call, unify Greece under Macedonian rule, and to destroy the Persians. He conquered almost all of Greece, and he did establish this army how he wanted. He made an army of professional soldiers. They're no longer just citizen soldiers who are like the weekend warriors, like the Army National Guard or something along those lines. They are soldiers through and through. That is their job. And he created this new phalanx, which was 16 rows deep instead of the normal Greek phalanx, and they would fight as a single unit, as like one individual. And he would take advantage of the Greeks not trusting each other to conquer them. So this is the comparison of a Macedonian phalanx versus a Greek phalanx. Macedonians, they use 14 to 22 foot long pikes, which are just a really, really heavy duty, big spear. Their shields were 2 feet wide, and all this gear would weigh about 12 pounds, the shields. And they would be even closer knit together, so it's like a forest of spears, okay? Versus the Greek phalanx, where they would have 7 to 8 foot long spears, a 3-foot shield that weighed 15 pounds. So the Macedonian phalanx, not only is it a little bit more lightweight, it's more closely packed together, so it's even harder to penetrate through this forest of shields and, well, forest of spears. And yeah, and you got to get and you have to get past all of it to even get to them. It's no match. The Greek phalanx is no match for the Macedonian phalanx, and that's why Philip II is able to conquer so many Greek city-states. Now, for 23 years, he's going to try and fulfill his dream of conquering Greece. He gets all of it except for Sparta, like we talked about before. But whenever he conquered a city, he typically would bribe the city leaders to surrender or form an alliance through marriage with them. That's how he ended up having 6 or 7 wives. Yeah. Now, 336, we're going to see he was ready to carry out his plans to lead Greece in a war against Persia, but he was murdered. Either a Persian assassin or his first wife, Olympias, was behind it. We don't actually know who was behind it. There's not a lot of evidence to determine, like, for sure who it was. That is when Alexander becomes a king. That is Philip and Olympia's son. Now, he becomes ruler of Macedonia when he is 20 years old. And he had already been a commander in the army since he was 16, and he actually was very well respected by his men because of his courage on the battlefield. Like, he was always leading the charge with cavalry and all that, and his military skill, his ability to know where troops need to be at every moment of a battle. And we already know that he was well educated because he was taught by Aristotle, who was taught by Plato, who was taught by Socrates. You know, some of the most intelligent men to ever come out of Greece. So he has quite the pedigree when it comes to his education and his military knowledge because of the skills of his own father with the battlefield. All right, so 334, he's going to lead 30,000 soldiers and 5,000 cavalry into Asia in a campaign of west against the east. He's going to war against the Persians. He is going to encounter them at the Granicus River, which is here in Asia Minor, modern day Turkey. And they're going to win the battle, and they're going to send a bunch of armor from the Persians to Athens as a gift to Athena and asking for her favor, in the continued war. They're going to go along the Asia Minor coast. They're going to free the Ionian city-states, all those Greek city-states along here that, remember the Trojan War, those cities? Yeah, they're going to free all of them from Persian rule. The second big battle is going to happen at Issus in Syria, which, if you go back to the map, Syria is down here. That's the next major battle. His tactics are going to force the Persian king Darius III to flee the battlefield. So it's an overwhelming victory when you make the enemy king run away. He and his troops are going to capture the Phoenician coast and are going to cut off the Persian fleet from the rest of the empire. He's going to invade Egypt, which was controlled by the Persians at this time, and they actually welcome him to Egypt and they make him like the pharaoh. It's like, hey, you freed us from the Persians. We want you to rule us now. So he's then going to set up a new city called Alexandria, right there on the coast of the Mediterranean Sea, and he names it after himself. That's how Alexandria is named. He's actually going to name a lot of cities Alexandria in the lands that he conquers. I forget how many, but it's a couple dozen cities at least. Now, over the next couple years, he's going to continue going eastward. He invades Mesopotamia in 331 and defeats Darius again at the Battle of Gaugamela, which is near the Tigris River. He's going to capture cities of Babylon, Persepolis, and Susa, which are three of the most important cities in the Persian Empire. That is basically him taking over the rest of the Persian Empire. There is no Persian Empire after these battles, and these cities are taken. He's going to lead his soldiers all the way to India. And after 3 years, they reach the Indus River Valley. They make it all the way there. All right? It's insane how much territory he was able to conquer. Now, he wanted to go even further, to go into India even further and take over more land, but his soldiers like, dude, we've been at this for like 10 years. We want a break. We want to go home. We haven't seen our families in 10 years. So they end up going back halfway there they get to Babylon, and he's going to make that the capital of the empire. But he's going to get sick with malaria. That is a mosquito-borne disease, and it's very deadly. So in 323, he's going to die at the age of 33 years old. So he dies having created this huge empire over the course of like 12, 13 years. What happens to it now, right? So we're going to see what happens to all of this territory. We have Greece, we have Asia Minor, we have Egypt, we have Mesopotamia, and we have all the way to the Indus River. All this territory. Now, what's the fate of it, right? So we'll be getting to that in just a moment. Now, he had his goals for the empire before he died. He wanted to punish Persia and fulfill his father's dream of, getting rid of the Persians. More and more victory made Alexander's views change, and he actually wanted to create an empire that would unite Europe, meaning Greece, and Asia, meaning the Persians, and combine them, taking the best of the Greeks and the best of the Persian cultures and just making it one. So that's like Hellenistic, which we talked about last time with like the Corinthian columns. It's a combination of Greek and Asian stylings. So he's going to promote this like idea of combining the cultures together by example. He actually would dress in Persian clothing, imitate a lot of the court life of the Persian emperors. He actually married the daughter of Darius III, his enemy on the battlefield, and encouraged 10,000 of his soldiers to marry Persian women. So that there would be a generation of children who are both Greek and Persian, uniting the people. He founded about 70 cities that would be military outposts and centers for spreading Greek language and culture in the Persian Empire. Most of them would be named Alexandria. Now that he's dead at age 32 or 33, we're not positive on what his age was when he died, but it's 32 or 33. His three top generals would divide his empire between them, essentially. We have Ptolemy, who would take over the rule of Egypt, and the queen of Egypt, Cleopatra, is actually descended from Ptolemy. So she's actually, a descendant of the Greeks. We have Seleucus, who would control Syria and Mesopotamia, which, all this area here. He would, give up the land of Judah to, other people later on. But then we have Antigonus, who would take over who would rule Macedonia and Greece. But this would fall into disarray and would be taken over by the Romans when they are moving into the area during their great time of expansion and conquest. All right, the Hellenistic world. This was Alexander the Great adopting Greek culture and spreading Hellenistic influences throughout the empire. That's like Macedonian, Greek, and Persian kind of all mixed into one. this would really begin with the decline of Athens and Sparta and the rise of Macedonia. And yeah. So Hellenic is formal, simple, Doric, Ionic for these styles of columns. And Hellenistic is very more elaborate, like the Corinthian ones. So that's a way to tell, an easier way to tell, like building wise or design wise in art and architecture, what time period we're dealing with. So like statues, this one on the left is Hellenic. It's a little more simple. And the one on the right is more elaborate, so that would be Hellenistic. All right, that is where we are leaving off. We are done with Greece, guys. So make sure that you study all of this material on Greece because there will be a quiz coming up. And next time that we are together for a lesson, it will be on Rome. All right, guys, see you later.